Evaluating formal and informal, culturally responsive, and accessible assessments. Assessment versus evaluation. Assessments allow students to demonstrate the knowledge, skills, and attitudes to allow for the evaluation of learning outcomes. The assessment allows for feedback about the student's areas of strength and weaknesses, and it's also a great tool that we can use to improve the performance for students. Evaluation, on the other hand, is determining the quality of the performance. This is going to help us determine success versus failure. It's going to determine if the standard was met, and we're going to determine was our ultimate goal met during this time. Why assessment is important. Assessment shows that the standards are being met based on what's being taught in the classroom. We're able to demonstrate the understanding, which is critical to the learning process for students. We are able to provide students with feedback. We can explain to them areas that they're doing really well in and areas that they may need to focus a little bit more energy toward. And it'll also allow us to evaluate their progress from beginning to end and determine how much growth they've had. And based on that growth, we are able to determine different interventions that may be helpful to the students. There are different types of assessments. You have formative assessments, which is the evaluation of learning of a student over a course of time. This includes end of unit exams, identification of strengths and weaknesses on a certain subject or a certain topic. Okay. You have summative assessments, which is used at the end of a course of study, such as a comprehensive final, where you are being tested or you're testing the students on multiple different topics. You're testing them on information that was delivered throughout the entire class. You have self-assessments, which allow students to judge their own work, not necessarily self-grading, but rather they're able to determine how it is that they feel that they did on that. Do they feel that they produced a high-quality project? Do they feel that they put as much effort as they could into their work or anything like that? And the last one here that we're going to talk about is peer assessment, which is the evaluation of other students' work. This is great because students are able to learn how to professionally critique each other and use it as a learning experience. You're able to say, I really enjoyed your presentation because you did, X, Y, and Z. Or, I noticed that you did this in your presentation, and I think that this really helped cement your arguments, things like that. And they're also able to give suggestions on how other students might improve it. And so it's not just learning from the teacher. It's not just getting feedback from the teacher, but you're getting feedback from your peers, the people that are close to you and think in similar ways. And so peer assessment, I feel, is a very important type of assessment that students can learn a great deal from. Culture and assessment, it is very important for the teacher to understand the community of students and how that really matters to their learning. Understanding the background. When a teacher is able to build a relationship with a student and you kind of understand where they come from, the different communities that they belong to, you're going to start to understand the student views based on assessment based on that. Some different things that we can do to try and help students not be hesitant or not enjoy the assessments that they're doing. First one is translation. A lot of times if a student, their first language is not English, they get some anxiety, they don't fully understand the assessment, and so we need to be able to allow students to take assessments in their first language so that they are really able to demonstrate what it is that they know. When developing rubrics for your assessments, it's a good idea to allow students to be part of that process. Allow them to give ideas about what it is that we should be looking at in it. You as the teacher, you still guide the conversation into some different things, but allowing the students to have a say in what it is that they're being graded upon really allows for them to kind of buy into the assessment, and they have a little bit more skin in the game at that point. A senior defense, this can be creating a portfolio that contains work samples that will show a demonstration of competency for the student. A lot of times you see this in high school where a student will compile different work samples throughout their high school time from their freshman year to their senior year, and they are able to determine their competency for graduation based on that. You can see your growth from your freshman year to your senior year in your writing. You can see different scores that you've scored on standardized tests. You can see different scores in math and the different topics that you've been able to master. So a portfolio is a great way to perform an assessment that any culture can really participate in. And you have oral assessments, which can be done in two different ways. You can do it in a whole group, or you can do it as an individual with questioning. If you do it in a whole group, it becomes more of a class discussion. You are at that point assessing the knowledge of students by asking them as a group these different questions. As an individual, it comes in handy if a student per se has trouble writing. If you're able to do a verbal or oral assessment with them, and you ask them the questions and allow them to tell you the answer and explain their thoughts in that, it is a great help, and it will alleviate some of the anxiety that comes along with oral or with regular assessments at that time. What makes up an effective assessment here? First, you need to know your students. You need to know what they're capable of. You need to know what they feel comfortable with, and you need to be able to create an environment that they are willing to or able to do their best. The assessment needs to be reflective in process so that you can reflect on the assessment to determine the effectiveness of it, but also students can reflect on it. What did they like about the assessment? What didn't they like? What can they do better to prepare for it in the upcoming school year? Things like that. Your assessment needs to have ethical reasoning behind it to where students are able to make ethical decisions throughout it. Critical thinking is a huge part of assessments because we want to see the thought process of the student. So allowing some more open-ended questions where it's not just one right or wrong answer, but they're able to give an answer and defend that answer is great. Making sure that your assessments are bias-free. It's not necessarily your opinion that we want to know. It is, do you know the information, and how are you able to defend that? And the assessment needs to be able to identify the strengths and weaknesses of the student so that we are able to provide different interventions to help the student in areas that they need, as well as giving the student the time to still keep the strength areas high. Here at Dutch Clark Digital, we are an online school, and so we have a couple of different assessments that we use through our online curriculums. For our formative assessments in our online learning platform of Apex, we use end-of-unit tests. In Reading Plus, which is a reading program that helps students raise their vocabulary comprehension and overall reading level, we have what are called level ups, and this is when a student moves from one grade level to the next when they take a test at the end of the unit in that. Alex Math is an online math program that breaks down different areas in math. We have algebra and geometry classes in Alex Math, and when they master a topic, that is their formative assessment so that they're able to move on to the next topic in that subject. Our summative tests in Apex, we have final exams which cover the entire class, all the units, so it is comprehensive. And the other one that we use are the state assessments where we participate in the PSAT and the SAT. We have CMAS, which is Colorado Math and Science assessments. And we also have, at our school specifically, we use the Work Keys assessment, which is a way that students can demonstrate their competency for graduation and earn credit that way. In graphic literacy, going towards English language arts, and in applied math for some math credit. As far as our assessment gaps, I don't really see any at this point. We do cover a lot of different assessments here. Our data intervention, we use for APEX, each class has a pre-test and a post-test, and so we're able to see the growth of the student from pre-test to post-test at the end of each unit. In Reading Plus, each student takes an initial reading test, and we're able to look at that comprehensively to see the growth that students are making throughout the year, and we're able to determine if they need more time with that program, or how the instructional time that they are spending can change based on their reading results. These do help us close the achievement gap. A lot of our curriculum is read since we are an online school, so their involvement in Reading Plus is very, very beneficial to their learning while here at Dutch Clark Digital. We do, I believe, have a culturally responsive school, and especially when it comes to assessment, we include parents in the onboarding process. We explain the assessment processes that our school goes through. The students take the initial reading test while parents are in the onboarding process learning about this. We do have continuous communication with parents throughout the online learning process. It is a new process for many families, and so as teachers, we have a continuous communication with parents minimally at once a week. Here's the references that we used for this presentation, and thank you guys.